For over a century, the human experience has been sorted into boxes. We've been categorized and divided by the year we were born, the languages we speak, and the arbitrary borders drawn on a map. For decades, we embraced these categories. We used them to build identities as digital pioneers or independent builders, finding a comfortable sense of community within our specific demographic brackets. But look at the long-term effect of these labels. When we allow language to define us by age or origin, we inadvertently create a framework where them and us are the default settings. We become easier to group, manage, and separate. This division provides a massive opportunity for anyone looking to exploit a system. By focusing the conversation on demographic differences, men versus women, or one nationality versus another, the focus shifts away from shared human needs and toward constant internal fighting. Acknowledging this doesn't mean we have to abandon our personal histories or generational pride. We can honor where we came from while still recognizing that the constraints placed on our identities were largely made up by someone else. The real conflict isn't between generations. It's between our desire for connection and the linguistic habits that keep us divided. It's easy to assume these generational categories are permanent facts of life. In reality, they are a fairly recent human invention, a sociological framework that is only about 100 years old. The trend began after World War I. The idea of a lost generation didn't emerge from a laboratory, but from the conversations inside a Parisian literary salon. When Ernest Hemingway popularized the term in his writing, he effectively set a precedent. From that point on, humanity began grouping itself into 20-year cultural buckets based entirely on birth dates. Once the concept of a generation took hold, historians stamped it backward onto the past. They retroactively created the missionary generation for those born in the 1860s, forcing a rigid model onto the messy reality of human history. This modeling allowed society to assign sweeping stereotypes to entire populations. Individuals were no longer just people. They were defined by the perceived traits of their birth bracket, whether that was being a conformist or a rebel. By accepting these labels, we allowed a literary categorization experiment from the 1920s to dictate the boundaries of human identity for a century. We see this in how we define the greatest generation, a group bracketed by economic ruin and war, praised for their institutional grit and sacrifice. We contrast them with the baby boomers, who are often remembered for the civil rights progress of their youth, but criticized for the materialism of their later years. Even Gen Z is placed in a bucket, defined by their digital mobilization and the specific anxieties of a hyper-connected world. For decades, these cultural buckets worked because populations were effectively siloed. You couldn't easily see into the lives and experiences of people on the other side of the world, or even the other side of a demographic line. But modern technology has removed those walls. For the first time, we have real-time, global transparency. We can see the opportunists who benefit from our division, and we can see that our shared experiences far outweigh our birth years. This global connectivity hasn't just changed how we talk, it has made the entire framework of generational labeling obsolete. As the old boxes crumble, a different paradigm is emerging. It's called the planet generation, a cohort that chooses to be defined by the future they are building rather than the decade they were born. This isn't a demographic, it's an alignment. It is ageless, borderless, and open to anyone who recognizes that our primary devotion should be to humanity and the earth. The shift starts with how we value each other. Instead of a system built on scarcity and competition, the focus moves toward mutual elevation, where the goal is for people to empower other people to solve the problems we all face. This movement doesn't require us to agree on everything, but it does set a hard line. Physical or legislative violence against our fellow humans is an unacceptable relic of the past. Because we now have instant global connectivity, the practice of peace is no longer a dream. It is a functional choice we can make every day by choosing truth over the language of hate. Today, we have the education and the resources to address the baseline needs of every person on the planet. Scarcity and environmental destruction are no longer inevitable. They are problems with existing solutions. To meet this potential, we only need to remain trainable, committing to a lifestyle of ongoing learning and shared development. The verbal prisons of the past are history. We are stepping out of the boxes and into a future where your impact is limited only by your willingness to participate. transform the planet. Empower yourself and others. Join us and declare, I am the planet generation.